Goodness gracious, Scorekeepers, it is another episode of your favorite podcast, The Score.
Hey, we back.
Welcome to it. I hope everyone is having a decent week. It seems like from our little pre-show chat that I don't know, things have been wild. Lee, are you okay with the smoke?
Can you breathe?
Can you breathe?
So it's been, right before we started recording, I turned off my air conditioner because it's really, really loud. But I've had to have them running in every room for the last couple of days because otherwise the smoke, you can smell it inside with the windows closed. It's really intense. The first night I had an event for work and it was clear something was going on, but it wasn't yet being widely reported what it was. So I was walking a little bit in it, and I've had burning eyes and chest pain since. It's really intense. And I was out to dinner with a really brilliant composer friend of mine and a bunch of young women who are, getting involved in the art form. And she had to pull out her inhaler maybe 3 times at dinner. So like in an hour and a half,
Ooh.
like
Oh
3
my
times,
gosh.
right? It's really, really been terrible here. So Godspeed to our friends in Canada, because if it's bad here, I can only
I
imagine.
can only imagine.
Yeah, but it's been pretty scary. Not to mention, it looks like what Damien referred to as a doomsday filter being
Mhm.
placed
It
over.
really does. It looks like a
Yeah.
movie about Mars or something.
Yeah, it was really, really scary to kind of sit through and think about what it meant that like the sort of particulate count had gone from like 15 on a normal day to 600 on the worst day of this. I don't even know what that means, but my body certainly was letting me know, don't go outside. Whatever you think you're doing, there is nothing happening that is that important that can't either be a Zoom, a phone call, a text, something. So yeah, things are super fun in New York.
Whew.
Wow.
Wow. My
Yeah.
goodness.
I've been hearing a lot of people comment that just like, oh, we probably should have kept those masks around. Like,
I never got
yeah,
rid of mine.
show
Same,
didn't. I
same.
ordered a new pack of KN95s recently in
Mhm.
pretty assortment of jewel tone colors.
And there are enough people around me in my orbit that have gotten COVID recently that I'm just
Mhm.
like, well, that's
Yeah.
not over either. So we
No,
should
it's
have these
not.
masks on hand anyway. So, oh, you know what? I didn't introduce us. Well, I'm Rocky. Hi, hello, nice to meet you. The person we're praying for in the smoke is Dr. Lee Bynum. And of course, the lovely, the luminous Paige Reynolds. Hello, Paige.
Hello.
Well, it is a big month here on the score. It is Pride Month, of course. Happy Pride, everyone. Please go back if you haven't and listen to the trans takeover from our last episode.
Bop, 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 bop.
Precisely. And of course, next episode, we will have our incredible annual Juneteenth panel moderated by the fabulous Dr. Lee Bynum. Cannot wait for that. And also, I'm just going to say up top, we kind of have a big major announcement about the show that I think we're going to make next week, or next episode rather. So just in case you're one of those people that doesn't stay all the way to the end when I make all these messy announcements. Stay tuned for that. But Juneteenth is coming up, and it is taken on, it seems like, such a life of its own. Like now it is a national holiday. And I think we've never actually just sort of like sat down and talked about our feelings about Juneteenth. And so it seems like 'tis the season. And so Paige, you brought this up. And so I'm just curious what's on your mind, what's on your spirit?
Yeah. So I want to talk about like a particular instance that made me bring it up. So, I think some of the response around Juneteenth is a perfect example of just DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion gone wrong,
Well.
gone very wrong. What happens when you just take stuff and run with it? So there was a city in one of the Carolinas. I want to say that maybe it was Asheville, but I might be wrong. I'm so sorry, Asheville, if it was not you. Um, I think that they were having like some type of citywide, countywide, like Juneteenth celebrations. And they're, I guess somehow in the marketing, they decided that they wanted to just try to be inclusive. So they had a bunch of white people on Juneteenth signs.
Yes, I
There
did see
was
Wait,
in
this.
this
wait,
place.
come
I did
again?
see this. Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. They had like a white man and woman like smiling on like a
And
Juneteenth
like
sign.
holding hands walking down the
Yes.
street.
I also believe in this same place, or maybe it's just a related conversation, like someone on I'm Facebook friends with who's like leading like a yoga session during June, like a Juneteenth, part of a Juneteenth series. Why'd they put a white woman on the flyer for her yoga session? They changed it. They eventually changed it. But I was just like, see,
Uh,
this is the stuff we're talking about. Y'all, y'all, y'all are all of our non-black friends listening to this podcast. Let's just be very clear. Juneteenth is about the emancipation of descendants, Black descendants of American chattel slavery. It is about our freedom, our rest, our resilience, our continued struggle and continued healing. This is not about you. This is not about you. If you are doing something that is in any way congratulatory toward yourself, you need to check it. You need to check it. You might have got lost somewhere. I don't know how I don't know if it's like capitalism just being wild, or just our modern media being so wild, how things get convoluted so easily with how information travels so fast and things become viral. But it's like truly shocking to kind of watch how people have spun it so fast. Honestly, I even feel a way about some places that give everybody a day off for Juneteenth. I feel like if you don't got no black people working there, why is everybody?
You better get to work.
Maybe you take the entire day to do a summit on reparations. Or maybe you take the entire day to just, I don't know, just go help black people with something. Like that's the spirit of this holiday. Like, are you understanding? Are we understanding? Yeah, so that's where I'm at with it. I want to hear y'all's thoughts.
I'm just like picturing, it's like that video, that Meg Stalter video that went viral a couple of years ago at the beginning of Pride Month. She's like, "Hi, gay. We are sashaying away with deals this Pride." I'm just picturing like someday somebody's like, "Hi, Black. This Juneteenth, get a 30% discount." Like, oh my God. Is that what this is going to become? Like a Hallmark holiday? Like I'm going to get like cards in the mail from like white acquaintances. Like, sorry, our ancestors enslaved your ancestors.
Yeah. Celebrate our special 3/5 discount.
Oh my God.
I mean, I don't have a lot of words for it because I am legitimately shocked by people putting non-black people on any kind of advertisement for Juneteenth. Like something feels like very confused about that. Like very, very confused about that. Um, in terms of this holiday becoming, commercialized and, perhaps perverted along the way to being any number of other kinds of things, I think nothing is more American than that, right?
Mm,
Like, I can't think of a holiday we have here in this country that doesn't really feel like it isn't completely divorced from its roots, whether it is, pagan roots or political roots or artistic roots. Like things seem not to be able to keep from being co-opted here, right? Like it's been alarming to me that over the course of the last couple of years, where I hear the most frequently consistently made references to MLK are on the far right, right? Like the ways that that rhetoric has been co-opted to sort of position people against equity movements. And
you would think that he only gave one speech, and that one speech consisted of one line.
right,
Mhm.
right, right. And how easy it has been for people to sort of erase the roots around um, organizing with labor and some deeply radical principles that are very present in his work, and that's like not a part of it anymore, right? It's all coloring books and nonsense now. And thinking about that happening to Juneteenth, I absolutely expected. Um, I absolutely expect it, right? That's
Mm.
how the thing works, and we are really going to lose very quickly, especially with Black history, any history, all history, American history coming out of schools, right? Kids aren't going to have any sense of what the antecedent was. If you're not talking about slavery, then how are you contextualizing what Juneteenth is, why it's significant,
Mhm.
right? Like
Hmm.
it's just wildly ironic in some ways. I don't know, y'all. I've been actively contemplating getting out of here. And by here, I mean Earth. Like I'm just not I don't see this relationship as being sustainable for too much longer. I got nothing. Y'all have really deeply disquieted my morning. So
Oh.
Oh, by the way, the city was Greenville, South Carolina. Greenville. So
Apologies
Greenville,
to
South
Asheville.
Carolina, talking to you.
oh my God.
I was
Oh
going to be
my
surprised because
God.
Asheville, in my experience, tends to have their poop together.
Yeah, I was gonna be a little surprised too. Yeah, and I know there's at least, there's
Shout
some
out to
Negroes there.
Asheville.
Yeah.
Shout out to Harvest Records in Asheville. Everybody go shop there, get your records there.
We are
Uh,
in an age though of like ducks not being in a row, right?
no.
And I think in many rows, it's not, we've got like ducks and chickens and geese and pigs and everything else in the row. And I think that's part of what the issue is, right? Like everything in this moment is meant to be everything to all people, because I think that's simpler than actually thinking through what it means to be equitable. Instead, we just kind of say, we're going to fling all the doors open and everything is equal. Every perspective is weighted in exactly the same way. There is no articulation of nuance. There is no historical or social context to anything. I mean, the fact that we are in 2023 and people still tweet out things regularly around, not understanding why there isn't a straight pride, right? Or a few days ago, a certain celebrity's parent had tweeted something about
Mhm.
make sure you hug a straight person and thank them for your being here in the month of June, right? And it was just like impossibly needlessly ignorant. Like what's actually happening? It's like people are embracing the spirit of knowing nothing lately. And I do feel like it's increasing, right? It didn't always feel like people were this proud to be out of touch and have an uninformed perspective. Like people are
I don't
proud of it
know. I
now.
feel like that's been a thing for a while now,
Oh, well.
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I might need to find my bubble and stay in it then, because I am not enjoying it. Like
I
I'm
mean,
Especially
really not.
historically,
yeah.
people with the privileged power, especially, white folks are gonna, one thing that's gonna happen is having audacity. They're gonna have some audacity. More than is sensible.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I keep saying on this show. I believe that everyone knows everything. And it's like we're looking at historically things that like clearly do not work
Yeah.
for a huge segment of the population that a much smaller segment of the population is able to capitalize on. And then you ask those folks like this is not working. Clearly people are sick, people are houseless, people are dying, people are unable to feed and clothe themselves, and they're sit over here and they go, "Oh, what? What are you talking about? Oh, I had no idea. Oh, let's have a benefit. Let's have a fundraiser. Let's have a Juneteenth picnic." Like, and it's just like you know what you're doing. Like Bustin Jeeber's dad knew exactly what he was doing and what he was saying when he tweeted that out. Like we all like we all had this exact same there was this cultural moment. I remember in 2014 Laverne Cox is on the cover of Time magazine and we're talking about transgender folks and what it's all about, the science behind it. Everyone seemed to understand, but now here we are, what, 9 years later, and everyone's memories have just reset. No, you know what's going on. This is just a big political football. And we're just demonizing the small group of people because it's politically expedient and people are making money off of it. That's it. That's
Right.
all. And that's just, been the case since the beginning of time. My whole thing, in 2020, I feel like sometimes I get sort of gaslit around it as well, especially being an EDI professional. Professional in quotes. um, but in 2020, I had a very well-meaning white coworker sent me an email saying like, well, I just feel like it's really important this year in the wake of, Mr. Floyd's murder that like we do something around Juneteenth, like commemorate it or celebrate it in some way. I just think that would be a really good inclusive thing to do. And I wrote them back and I was like, no. This is a black thing for black people, but thank you. And then all these other people like came and got in my ear and it's like, well, I mean, I think really this is a time for us to come together and show unity and blah 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 blah. And I was just like finally just kind of like, okay, I guess. And then all of a sudden it's a national holiday, and all of a sudden Nancy Pelosi and them are wearing kente cloth and kneeling in
Oh, that happened. That
Capitol
actually
Rotunda
happened.
and I was just like, okay, well, I guess maybe this is a sign of progress. Maybe this is a sign that we're moving forward, and I just sort of need to soften my outlook on it. And now here we are in Greenville, South Carolina. So North Carolina, South Carolina, either one. And I just feel like I was right. I should have
Yeah.
followed my gut.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
anyway.
I mean, my thing is also, I think with a lot of like pushes for, inclusivity and, the different kind of things that non-black folks sometimes run with in this way, I just always want to pause and ask, who asked you to do that?
Who asked you to do that?
Did black people ask you to do that? Or are you right now, you'd think like a lot of people, you know, maybe they get activated or they feel like they need to do something to like it. And I wish people would pause and think about how much that urgency has to do with their own discomfort around racism and knowing that it exists, and just pause instead of just doing something that makes you feel good. Like, what are Black people actually asking you to do? What are we actually asking for? Because ain't nobody asked y'all to organize these Juneteenth events. And also, inclusivity is not always the goal, or at least in the way that you think it is. Everything being racially inclusive, I think a lot of the time is actually about the comfort of, again, the comfort of non-Black folks. Because a lot of the time, if you ask Black folks what we actually want, we need some more spaces to just rest and be amongst ourselves. Especially in a place like Minnesota, where more of us are isolated. There's just like less of us here, or fewer in, you know, number. You know, if especially in workspaces, a lot of us are more isolated. And so if your Juneteenth event is like, everybody get together, I don't know. I, as the Black person in the room, am side-eyeing it. Because if you had asked me what I actually wanted for Juneteenth, it's probably not the inclusive picnic where people make poor attempts at cooking Black cuisine or whatever.
Oh no!
No, I don't.
Oh no!
But
or whatever people are doing out here, you know.
Oh no!
we are just a barrel of joy this afternoon,
Aren't we? Aren't we just? But you know what? We will be a barrel of joy in a couple of minutes. I mean, I think we should put a pin in this conversation right now, and we will definitely return to it next episode when we have our Juneteenth panel, because our fabulous guest is in the waiting room, and we need to let him in. And Lee, I think you know him.
We'll see.
Your friends?
We'll see.
Maybe? Okay. Well, we will be right back with singer, artist, composer, all around lovely person, and I'm told Dr. Lee Bynum's lovely husband, Damian Norfleet, when we return.
Oh, him. Yeah.
All of us who knew you, we did not talk to you. We gave you directions. All of us who knew you, we did not see you, because for us, there was nothing to see. And with our fingernails, all of us who knew you pushed our shame into you. All of us who knew you plucked our beauty from inside of you. We hope, we pray that you. We hope that you, we pray that you, they pray that you. They hope that you. You with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself. You with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself. You with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself too. 'Cause we believe that we're beautiful. We believe that we're worthy. We believe that we're truly blessed. We believe that we're highly favored. We believe that we're passionate. We believe that we're eloquent. We are worthy. We are worthy. We are worthy. We love ourselves. We hope that you, we pray that you, they pray that you, they hope that you, I hope that with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself. You with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself. You with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself too. 'Cause we believe that we're beautiful, we believe that we're worthy, we believe that we're witty, we believe that we're decorated, we believe that we're ornamented, we believe that we're elegant, we believe that we're brilliant, we are glowing, we are glowing, we are glowing, we love ourselves. We hope and we pray that you with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself. You with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself. You with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself too. He believes that he's beautiful. She believes that she's beautiful. They believe that they're beautiful. We are glowing, 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 we are glowing. You with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself. You with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself. You with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself. You with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself. You with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself. You with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself too. You with eyes of blue, we hope you love yourself too.
And we are back. Thank you for sticking with us through the break. We have a very, very, very special guest with us today. Someone that if you are a loyal scorekeeper, and I know you are, you have heard about many, many times, but you finally will get to hear from the wonderful Damian Norfleet.
Yay!
Yay!
Family reunion.
Yay! I'm so excited to be here, y'all.
We are excited to have you. And just so the audience can be as excited as we are, I will share just a little bit about who you are with them, and then we'll jump into a lovely conversation. Damian Norfleet is a gifted improvisational singer, performance artist, actor, and social justice activist who has occupied a rare multidimensional space in the performing arts. Norfleet brings a range of emotions and commands both stage and screen with a strong presence and powerful singing. Across spoken word, song, and poetry, his output focuses on space, language, and phonemic awareness. Barrymore Award-winning and Ernie Award-nominated actor Damian Norfleet has been a guest artist at the New England Conservatory of Music and Bread and Puppet Theater, taught a masterclass at Bennington College, conducted a vocal health seminar for performers from Hong Kong Disney, and presented at a symposium for student artists from Taiwan, Singapore, and Hong Kong. He has workshop, developed, and directed new works with the John Duffy Institute for New Opera, American Opera Project, and the Graduate Musical Theater Writing Program at NYU Tisch. In 2022, Damian was a consultant to Lighthouse Art Space Minneapolis to reimagine the space for future performances, exhibits, and residencies. He co-curated Young, Gifted, and Black and Love in Times of Alienation with the concerts in the Heights Ensemble, both presented at New York's Lehman Art Gallery. 2021 began with Blessed for Opera Philadelphia's digital commissioning series. 2022 began with the collaboration with 13-time Grammy Award-winning producer Judith Sherman, and 2023 begins with Praise Piccola, a commissioned piece for voice and bass clarinet inspired by Toni Morrison's seminal work, The Bluest Eye. The duet Praise Piccola had its world premiere at the New York Public Library for the Performing Arts at Lincoln Center by clarinetist Moran Katz and vocalist Damian Norfleet during Ensemble Pie's concert Banned Books. Norfleet traversed the US as a lead actor, as a vocalist, and saxophonist in the nationally touring production In the Mood, a 1940s musical revue. He played the role of Smith in the 2012 Drama Desk Award-nominated production of The Threepenny Opera. In 2014, Norfleet performed in an experimental opera at the Guggenheim Museum as part of the Works in Process series. And soon thereafter, he portrayed Terrence Roberts in the world premiere of the play Little Rock, which earned him and the cast a Barrymore Award for Best Ensemble. Damian also played Scar in Hong Kong's Lion King, and on screen, Damian starred in the comedy series Cooperation with Lacey Goranson and Phoebe Robinson partnered with Andre Brower and Felicia Rashad in the feature film Emily and Tim, and is currently cast as the Pharaoh Akhenaten in the Afrofuturist feature film trilogy, Protector of the Gods. Damian was honored to be a featured performer at the ACLU's Beacon of Liberty Awards, honoring Terrence McNally. He has performed principal roles with Glimmerglass Opera, Portland Opera, American Opera Projects, Opera Philadelphia, Opera on Film, and appeared in concert at Lincoln Center. He's been blessed to work with amazing artists like Judith Sherman, composers Courtney Bryan, Nkiru Okoye, Yosvani Terry, and Trevor Weston, visual artists Tiana Nakia McLeodin, Peter Schumann, and Katya Popova, costume designer Miradrag Gubernovic, and conductors David Bloom and David Charles Abel, and stage directors Diane Paulus and Lars Jan, and regularly collaborates with two socially conscious ensembles, The Dream Unfinished and Ensemble Pie. Ooh.
So sorry. Have some water.
This is all so good. I just don't want to leave anything out. As a young artist, Damian served as the associate principal bassoonist of the Orchestra of the Pines, studied classical vocal pedagogy with Dr. David Jones and Dr. Robert Sadaloff, attended master classes with Dalton Baldwin and Warren Jones, was mentored by Tom Krause, and enjoyed a brief stint as a resident artist at the acclaimed Academy of Vocal Arts in Philadelphia. This was the moment Mr. Norfleet turned his attention to acting. Immediately upon leaving AVA, he was accepted into the acting studio of director Peter Pryor at University of the Arts, and later studied Shakespeare with Sybil Lines of the Royal Shakespeare Company. And fun fact, Damian studied West African dance with Janine Osayande. Thank you so much for being with us today, Damian. It is such a pleasure to have you here and to learn a lot of stuff that I did not know, despite the fact that we have been married for the last 10 years.
10 glorious years. Thank you. That was a really nice welcome. You read the whole thing.
I sure did. I'm really impressed. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm impressed that you're impressed.
So, Damian, love having you on the show, because I think so much of the work that you're doing intersects with a lot of the things that are really, really important to us here. And I think we would be remiss in not asking you, what is it that inspires this particular direction in your work, right? These themes around social justice and sort of social engagement come up very consistently in what I read, both things that you are creating as well as things that you are participating in as a performer. So I'm just curious, what is inspiring that for you?
I guess there are two strong answers for that. The first being, I guess like many artists, my work and the direction of my output is heavily inspired by my present. I get inspired by things I hear, see, people I meet, things that have happened, the weather, weather changes, all those kinds of things. And, you know, for those who can't see me, I am a gay Black man living in America. So just that alone makes certain social aspects just part of my everyday present, you know, which is very interesting when I talk to some of my peers who are not gay Black men or queer and or of color. You know, I think for a lot of them, dabbling into this kind of social justice sphere is voluntary, and they can kind of dab in, then dab out when they want to. And, you know, that isn't an option for many of us. So just my existence automatically puts a lot of my emphasis and exposure and a lot of inspirations are drawn from just a lot of our socio-political actions in the country. But a second answer, which I guess is more intentional, is things need to be said, and things need to be discussed, and things need to be learned, and things need to be known about. And it's funny because this second part of the answer is something that I've really been kind of questioning a lot as a person and as an artist. I questioned for a while, and go with me here for a second, because some of this is past tense and it's not exactly where I am right now. But there was a long period where I was really questioning the effectiveness of activism in the arts, period. You know, there are people out there marching and doing die-ins and hunger strikes and voting and running for office and all these kinds of things. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna write a little song about it. And then, you know, I think during the pandemic, during the lockdown, where there was just so fewer distractions because we were homebound, and there was just things reached us in a different way without being diffused through any other kind of these filters that exist in normal life when you can go out and about in the world. And that's really when I really started questioning how much I was doing. I remember specifically living in Harlem when in the heart of the pandemic, and there was another incidence of police brutality. And even though there was this raging pandemic going on, and we knew so little about it then that it was even scarier. Even with that, people were still marching outside. And I two things hit me from that. One, I was like, oh my God, it's so dangerous. You know, and then I was like, oh my God, y'all are so brave, because this is how necessary this is to, I mean, it was very inspiring at the same time that it was daunting, you know. But anyway, so that's a roundabout way to get back to things just need to be said and brought to light literally. And then something happened over the last 6 months that just kind of reinvigorated my intentional reason for writing in these spaces. And I was attending another event. It was actually a gala. And I was sitting next to some people who clearly are different than I, which put that way in all kinds of ways. And there was a piece being performed that dealt with Blackness. And the things that came across the stage to me were very like, yeah, I mean, duh. Yeah, I've heard that 20,000 times. Yeah, of course. Yeah. But then the person next to me, who was not Black, it was the first time they had heard it. It was the first time they had heard this basic kind of thing, just about relationships and just like this particular part of being Black in America. And that's when I realized, I was like, oh, some of you, there is a group of people who they don't read articles if they see a headline that says any of these kinds of words, Blackness, queerness, identity, gender, and they just kind of skip through it because they don't want to deal with it at the moment. And there's just a population of people, though, those same population, some of those people from that population, they do frequent concerts, and they are my extended community in a way of artists, and whether they're creators or you know, consumers thereof. And I was like, wow, those people heard this for the first time because that artist decided to make a piece based on this. And it just kind of reminded me that it is effective. You know, I mean, marching in the street is effective. Voting is effective, but also creating art centered on some of these themes is also effective. So that's kind of why a lot of my work has centered in this space. Does that answer the question? I tend to kind of ramble sometimes. I give everyone here a license to wrangle me back in if I ever go on a tear that has nothing to do with the question at hand.
Look who you're talking to. My Sagittarius Mercury is like, what? Ramble? Okay.
No, that was great, and it was also important to hear, right? Because I feel like there's such a tension for those of us who sit on the administrative side, sometimes in thinking about the ways that opportunities are made available to queer people, to Black people, to other people of color, to women, where we are sometimes saying, we are interested in your art, but only if it is sort of advancing something on this particular piece of the agenda around, you know, assuaging some issue or concern that we have, as opposed to opportunities that may be being given to, you know, majority creators, right? Just create a piece of art, right? And we give you money for that. And we're not asking for you to like explicate the white experience with it, although that is frequently what happens, right? So that's the thing that I feel like I'm constantly wrestling with and trying to make sense of as a paradigmatic framework for engaging artists of color.
I'd love
Yeah.
to, if I can add to that, Lee, I also am curious with artists of color also when I think, and especially in this climate, when we're talking about our lives or centering our stories in general, we're experiencing different kinds of backlash, and I feel like that can be doubly so for people who are directly, having more of like an educational or advancing social justice in some way, I feel like that, the risks are even greater, just like the kind of considerations that we have to make these days, and administrators have to think about it for like a company and like the artists themselves, like protecting them. And a thing that came to mind as we were also all talking is Toni Morrison talking about, racism, and, it distracts us from doing our work. And like, that's being one of the main features that it, eats up our energy, eats up our time. And so I wonder what that balance is like for you also as an artist, to be focused in this way and not let, how do you take care of yourself? How can administrators even, or people running companies, take better care and not get into that realm of being distracted? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I do know what you mean. It's a very hot topic in the world of presenters of performances and commissioning bodies, and there has been a very interesting conversation between creators and composers and these commissioning bodies and institutions, these presenting institutions. I think the first thing I think is very important in the process of engaging an artist of color to write about their experiences is clarity, first of all. Be very clear, if you're the commissioning body or the presenter, be very clear what it is you want from your artist of color or your queer artist or anyone else. If you really just want a piece about queerness or about Blackness, that is a very different ask than asking someone to write about trauma related to their Blackness or trauma related to their queerness. And I think when the commissioning bodies or presenters, if they start being specific with that ask of like, can you please write about your trauma? When they hear that out loud, I think maybe they'll present or approach the engagement differently, with a different kind of sensitivity and a different kind of patience and understanding, and hopefully a different kind of compensation, because that's a very different ask than to someone to write about a joyous occasion than to write about your trauma, right? Because going back to what your second part of the question that you added in their page, to write about a traumatic situation. I mean, first of all, if trauma happens to a person, it's horrible, right? And when we watch it in the news, like I love that how right now it's becoming part of public discourse about how trauma is relived by watching trauma happen to a similar person to you, how it actually triggers an actual somatic reaction in you. I'm so glad that so many psychologists are talking about that now, because we just so routinely throw these acts on the news, and we're rewatching it on YouTube and TikTok over and over, and just constantly re-injuring ourselves, right? But it's one thing to watch it, and it's one thing for it to happen to you. It's another thing to have to use that as your well from which you draw to create your work, because you're not just hearing about it. You're literally putting yourself in the position of the actors in that story. You are literally trying to like figure out, how does it feel to actually be shot? What is the fear that happens when you know danger is approaching? You go through the scenarios, and it really does affect you, because writing a piece, whether it's a full symphony or a duet or a poem, takes time, right? It's not like you just sit down and in 30 seconds you write it out, or in 3.5 minutes, like a newsreel might be, and then it's over. When you're writing a piece, I mean, you are reliving and like incorporating yourself and allowing yourself to feel all the feels that happen when exposed to these scenarios for hours, days, weeks, months. So that process can really take a toll. And I just feel like sometimes when the askers are asking those who are supposed to provide these pieces based on trauma, I don't think they're always being aware of that artist is going to have to sit with this for months and just steep themselves. And that's a very affecting process. But then on the other side, going back to Lee's first part of the question, of the interaction between the two, I think it is important. I think it is a great thing that those who program are programming things about this, because again, like my first part of the previous question, there are audiences out there who never hear about this, don't know about this, aren't presented a safe space, if you will, to listen to these stories and be encouraged to think, and given time to do so kind of privately, right? You know, sometimes when you're in a public conversation about these topics, you say something, someone says something back immediately. That's deterring for a lot of people to engage in conversations like this. But when you're attending these works that sometimes can last 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you're at least given that window where it's just you absorbing and then you getting to think about it, right? So I think doing these kinds of pieces based on these kinds of topics provides this kind of safe think space, which is what people need to do. People need to think about these topics, not just hear them and react to them. We need to think about them and weigh pros and cons and compare it to our experiences and compare it to the future we want to see, all these kinds of things. So in this imaginary scenario, if someone wants to commission an artist to write about these topics, well, then it's up to the artist to figure out yes or no. Now, I do understand there's a reality of this is our job and livelihood. We are not all in a position to say no to a bag. You know, I mean, sometimes you need that bag and you're like, yes, I need this commission. But then you have to be very honest with yourself. You know, money is just money. And there are lots of ways to make money. And you have to decide for yourself as an artist do I want to subject myself to a potential extended exposure to trauma for X amount of money? And you have to be honest with yourself too, before you agree to that. If that's what's being presented to you, if it's being presented to you, then it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to engage in that. Now, if there's a situation where you have to, you know, I mean, these are all conversations. I think the problem that happens is the drawing of these agreements, you know, it just needs to involve conversation. There needs to be a little back and forth so everybody understands it and they're on the same page through this process. Because as you alluded to, Paige, there is sometimes a need for a different kind of support system to be put in place if you're asking someone to create around their trauma. You know, it may involve a different kind of flexibility from a presenter than they normally would provide for a piece where it's just like, hey, write about, you know, cats. I don't know, you know, unless that's traumatic for you. But I just think there's
the Andrew Lloyd Webber one, or just a
I was talking about like feline. I was thinking more about McGonagall. I'm sure you've all met McGonagall because she insists on being involved whenever there's a camera around. But no, I think as long as there's this, just clear communication and flexibility, it just has to be a little flexibility. Now, listen, due dates, deadlines, things like that are realities, and those may need to be fixed. But a certain amount of communication between the two. I don't know. I just think the problems, I mean, I've been involved in conversations on both sides, or I've been privy to conversations on both sides. I've watched a commissioner speak to a prospective composer, and then they both spoke to me individually without each other. And it was very interesting how, you know, one person said, hey, can you write something about this? The other person heard, oh, this. The process continued for months before they realized they had different understandings, and then there was a misunderstanding, you know. So it's important, but I just really, really would stress to presenters, just realize what you're asking, you know what I mean, and treat it as such. But there's also this, you know, there is nothing wrong with asking someone to write about Black joy. There is nothing wrong with asking someone to write about gay pride. Like there's nothing wrong with those things, you know. But I don't know. It's a very tricky thing, but I think the thing that I would stress the most is everyone needs to understand this. It's very personal and it's very individual. And you know, presenters they ask these questions and search for materials with their audiences in mind. And every presenting organization has a different audience. So composers and those who are accepting prospective grants or receivers of commissions also need to understand that the presenter also has a responsibility, and just have conversations about that. You don't have to say yes or no in the first conversation. Like, figure it out so where you're both comfortable. Now, in the event that doesn't happen, because more often than not, that's not the process. You know, more often than not, they already have their system in place. They're like, here, we have this commission for you, yes or no. You know what I mean? You just have to learn how to compartmentalize things. And as a creator on those sides, the thing I have found, speaking about Toni Morrison specifically, the last piece I was commissioned to do was about Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. And if you've read Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye, you know it's chock full of trauma. And I immediately was like, oh God, I'm going to go in this space. Oh my God, I'm going to have to go in this space. I'm going to have to go in this space. And I read the book and I went in that space. But then I sat with it for a while and I realized that there's also a part of this process of creating around trauma that can be cathartic for you. Like, I figured out a way to use this trauma and work through this trauma that on the end became a very, very cathartic exercise for me. And the piece ended up being a much lighter piece. It was a piece that also shared the joyous lesson that can be gleaned from that novel, rather than, here, everyone, let's all, you know, communally stew in this trauma for a while. I mean, that's an option, but so is option B. So, you know, you just really have to figure out an openness in communication and a patience and a sensitivity when asking someone to write something that's sensitive in nature and origin, I think.
Damian, can I ask a quick follow-up to that?
Of course.
Because there's this thing that I've been observing over the last couple of years where I think we have sometimes a very unsophisticated relationship to the power of the arts in this country, right? Where I'll talk to colleagues or potential funders or people in the community who are saying things like, talk to me about how your work helps benefit us by doing something that is somehow unrelated to the art, right? Like the idea that the arts, you know, benefit us because they make us better citizens, or, you know, arts education makes us better at science and math and technology, or, you know, the arts are a means of solving societal problems, as opposed to the arts are reflections of the humans that create them, right? So like they have this, in my opinion, right, this really broad existence that are in response to whatever that person is creating, and there's value in that in and of itself, even if it doesn't like solve trauma or make us think differently or cause us to be better citizens. Sometimes it's just there to reflect where somebody is in the moment that they wrote that song or you know, created that painting, what have you. Does that feel like a resonant idea for you as an artist, and sort of as an artist who is sometimes being paid to respond to prompts?
Yeah, you know, I think in this country, definitely in the American public school system, I can speak for that because I'm a product thereof, the arts has been relegated to an elective. It's an elective course from our childhood to an adulthood, and it's already kind of positioned to this like just outer fringe. It's not a real topic, you know, it's not one of the 3 R's and all those kinds of things. So it's always kind of built in. But, you know, it's funny because when people say they want to use arts as this kind of supplemental thing, they often use examples of something like play Mozart for your unborn child and they'll become better thinkers. You know what I mean? Like, that's such a common thing. Or we'll just stick with that one for sake of time. if we know that music and art in general is transcendent and encourages you to think, which, alluding back to my previous blurb, giving people a place to think is how you learn from thinking. You don't learn from reading. You don't learn from doing things for real. It's when you receive information and then you process it, you think, you figure out how you feel about it. Well, that act of thinking is an act that you have to practice like any other act. You know what I mean? You become a better thinker by thinking, just like you become a better singer by practicing singing, or you become a better writer by writing. You become a better thinker by actually thinking. And I don't think we spend enough time as a society of doing that. But a more specific answer to your question of why I don't think it should be treated as this fringe thing, that essential skill of knowing how to think is exactly what art teaches us. Right, we get these potentially abstract images or sounds or whatever, and then we have to do the exercise of allowing them to come in, and you process them, you move them around, then you figure out, what do I think that is? What do I think that means? What do I think that represents? And that is the very act that is missing in society today, right? People aren't thinking for themselves. They're hearing whatever they want from their far left or from their far right or from their small community or from some foreign community. And then they hear it and they just kind of repeat it. They don't process, they don't even think enough to think like, do I agree with it or not? And that is the importance of the arts, is it transcends specific messages, specific languages, and engages us to do things like think and feel. The arts leads directly to being able to empathize and to process. And I personally think we should treat arts as that. What I mean, as the means of people learning how to be more empathetic and to be free thinkers, because that is exactly what the arts does. And it's a shame. Yes, there are other. Yes, it is true. There are other byproducts. You can, they say it helps you become better with math or this, that, and the other. Sure, maybe those things are true. But again, I think the real emphasis of that is how much it encourages us to think and to feel, and those two things are what make us better people. I mean, that is how you evolve from being a child to an adult, is by learning from your experiences, processing your experiences, and knowing how to A, not do that again, or B, figure out better ways to do things. And yeah, I mean, that has been my view of the arts, and that is my approach to the music that I write. And it's my approach to the way I perform. I mean, I've been accused sometimes of being a little too serious. Sometimes, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not really important if you breathe there or not. I'm like, yes, but it is. I'm like, it is important. And so it's, but it leads to that because there's, I mean, music specifically, well, all art, we are very aware that it transcends language, right? You don't have to speak Italian to enjoy a song being sung in Italian. You don't have to speak English to enjoy. I mean, look at half the world. Everybody's doing hip hop. I mean, it's one of my favorite things is Lee showed me a video the other day of someone in Hong Kong performing a TikTok video to a song. They clearly didn't know what the words meant, but they were hitting those beats. You know what I mean? It was like they were doing that dance. I mean, they were doing it, but it was so clear that they had no idea what the song was about because they were getting all hype and it was literally about a breakup or something like that. But it was just, it has this transcendent quality, which I think we'd be better as a society if we treat it more like an entree and less like a side of mashed potatoes. I think it would really, really just benefit us as people is if we really started understanding that art is the main course. I mean, the fact what I find so funny about that is the Western European and I dare say American education still kind of goes back to the process of that being taught in like ancient Greece and Rome, right? There's still a lot of roots in that system of education that have kind of transcended to our major universities today. And art wasn't an elective back then. I mean, it was an absolute main course, right? It was like, it would be, that's funny. That's double entendre, given I just compared it to an entree and a side dish. But it was a main thing then. I don't know when that changed, but perhaps we should try changing it back and just see what happens. Let's just see if music was a required course that you had to, and not just an objective. Let's just see what happens if poetry was a main course and not just, I don't know. I mean, I do think though it's inarguable that art makes better society. We all know that. Everyone who invests millions of dollars does it because they understand that. And I think we all know that, music and art makes you a better thinker. So I'm like, if we put all these things that we know about it, that we use separately to qualify them as being these little side hustles, side gigs, if we just listen to why it's a side gig and then put it all together, it makes it very clear it's not a side gig. It's the main point. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to change it. That might be better more, for you and your colleagues, Lee, in programming, who can do those things. Because I think we all know it. When times get tough,
100%.
we don't turn to a treatise or an article. We put on our song that helps us get through it. Like, we all know it occupies that space. We should probably start acting on it. Did they answer your question at all? I have no idea. Again,
No,
alert.
it absolutely did. And to that point, this may be a conversation that the podcast will end, and I'll just walk into the next room and we will continue, because I think there's a whole lot here, right? But as I think about what responsibilities that those of us who work in the arts have to advocate for its relevance and its centrality, I think there are ways that we're not consistently getting to why people should care and why people should invest in it in a different way, right? I feel like the arguments are not enough about this is vital to who we are. It is the very expression of who we are, and this is the legacy that we leave to past generations. As an historian, I'd love to think people are going to pick up my work and be reading that in 100 years, but it's much more likely that somebody might be singing a song that I wrote 100 years from now, right? And thinking about what that meant for everybody who is a person like me right now, what kind of expressions of my existence I'm making, and the sort of things that I'm saying, these are what my values are, this is what I care about. I feel like the arts are where we are able to communicate that the most clearly. And I don't always think we know that as Americans, right? I really wonder.
Yeah, I mean, succinctly put, and I mean this with zero hyperbole, art advances society. I mean, I just believe that. Period. And I think the more we act upon that, the better we'll be. I mean, I just think it's that simple,
Well, Damian Norfleet, speaking of main courses, we were fed today by this conversation. Thank you so much. But before we let you go, where can the people follow you? What do you have coming up? Where can people see your fabulous art?
Oh my goodness. Well, I have a website, which is my first and last name.com. Immediately upcoming, I'm doing, of all things, a rock opera that is based on, as they say, the greatest story ever told or whatever, but it is about the life of Jesus Christ. It's another one based
Matter
on
whatever.
And then also a bit more on the topic of what we were talking about. This fall, I'm participating in a recording project of a piece that I premiered a few years ago called Invitation to a Die-In, which is a really cool monodrama concert theatrical work composed by Nkiru Okoye, which basically addresses the epidemic here in our country of public servants killing private citizens, also known as police killing Black people. It was originally composed in memory of Trayvon Martin, and I debuted it in 2017, and we took it on tour. But we're about doing a large recording project of it, and hopefully we can take that out more to the masses. And then I have a few pieces of my own I'm composing that are in the works and hopefully will be debuted soon. I'm mostly excited about these two. One is it's a trilogy of sorts, but it's basically a piece inspired by African American folk tales. That's something that I was never privy to read and or was taught in elementary school. I know I can tell about Mother Goose and them, you know what I mean, but I don't know anything about, I can tell about the Brothers and Grimm and all those folks, but I don't know anything about our actual African-American folktales, and there are plenty. So I'm doing this really cool performance work based on John Henry is one of them. John and the Old Master is another one tale, which is about it's a folk tale about the first Black man in America. And then the last one is called based on All God's Children Have Wings. And that's a flying mythos from African-American folktales. So, I mean, those are the personal projects I have coming up in the recording project, Invitation to Die. And I'm very, very excited about that. I think it's something that needs to be seen. Nkiru created a very interesting work. It changes perspective throughout the piece, and it's very powerful. It's very hard to perform. Going back to our original conversation of drawing from this well of trauma. I mean, I'm absolutely shattered after every performance of it, but it's worth it because every time I have performed it, the audience was absolutely transformed as individuals and as a whole. I mean, the conversations I had after every performance of that were literally life-changing. So I'm excited about that being put out to the masses. Yeah, those are the most immediate upcoming things.
Okay,
and
cool.
I am on the Instagram, like kinda.
I see your stories every day.
Yeah, but like
Kinda.
Instagram for me is like a love hate relationship. Like I have like deleted accounts and like started new accounts at least a good 7 times. I get my fill and I just can't take it anymore. I think I'm too old for Instagram. I don't know. I just have these moments where I just get fed up. I'm like, delete, you know, then it's it. And then I'm like, I'm missing out. You know, it's just like, can I start a new thing? Because I'm not really like, I'm kind of a private person. And I know we need to go, but I'm kind of like a private-ish person. And there's a certain element of social media that I'm like, why? You know,
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
I'm like, y'all are truly in my business in a way that I'm not really a fan of. Like, the thing that really throws me off is like, I guess this happened not too long ago, but you know, you go somewhere, you meet somebody, and then they're like, "Oh my God, how's McGonagall?" I'm like, "Wait a minute, how do you know whim?" Oh, because you went on my social media. I'm like, "Okay,
It's
that feels
so weird. When I met my husband like 10, 11 years ago, like I remember one of our first like encounters after we first met. I was like, "Oh yeah, I was at this party or whatever." And he was like, "Oh, the one where you were wearing the red shirt?" And I was just like, "Ah!"
See, I don't like that.
I don't
I don't
like
like
that.
He-
That is incorrect.
You're too
somehow
familiar.
somehow he redeemed himself. I don't remember how, but yeah, no, it's too much. But we'll put a link to the Instagram in the show notes, and if it's there, it's there. If the link works, it works. If it doesn't, go check out Damian's website. But Damian, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Oh my
I can't
goodness!
believe it
Thank
only
you.
took 2 years.
Just 2 years. Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun, you guys. I had so much fun, y'all. Like, thank you so much for having me.
And we had so much fun too. And thank you once again. And everybody stay tuned because we will be right back with Pure Black Joy. Woohoo!
Yay!
Thank you, Damian.
Thank you.
All right, lovely people. Just want to thank the fabulous Damian Norfleet once again for being with us. That was a wonderful conversation. And now it is time for the best part of our show, the most nutritious part of our show. You ready, Paige?
Ready.
And a 1 and a 2 and a 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly with a baseball bat, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly with a baseball bat, peanut butter jelly, PB&J time, y'all.
Or should I say
Woohoo!
the smoothest part of our show?
Oh.
Yes, that is correct. It is time for Pure Black Joy, the segment where we talk about all of the Black people, places, things, thoughts, ideas, food, culture, art that is making us happy this week. So who would like to go first?
I actually have a short one that relates to the first segment,
Oh,
actually.
okay.
So this is really great news coming out of St. Paul, Minnesota, Rocky.
Okay.
Yes, the Bush Foundation, which is actually Edith and Archibald Bush, not the
Yes, I
George
read
Bushes.
about this.
Yeah, this is actually great news,
I'm so
right?
excited.
This is so the Bush Foundation is related to 3M, that company. They have funded the Open Road Fund with $50 million. It will be distributed by Nexus Community Partners to, get this everybody, the descendants of enslaved people brought to the US during chattel slavery, during the Atlantic slave trade, also known as Black people. Black people over the age of 14, irrespective of income, who live in Minnesota or the Dakotas will be eligible to apply for $50,000 grants for any kind of wealth building project beginning on June 19th of this month. But it is kind of amazing, right? Like I think this use of philanthropy is really extraordinary. Hopefully it becomes a model. I am not one of the people who has any expectation that the federal government of this particular country is going to backtrack it and change its perspective on reparations. I feel like if these are conversations that are going to advance, they will probably come out of places that are not the government, right? And this kind of project is a very interesting take on that sort of, you know, notwithstanding our earlier conversation about how Juneteenth is being used. I feel like perhaps this is a very good use of that date and thinking about, as Paige pointed out, what it means to be in support of Black communities, right? Bush Foundation literally has put their money where their mouth is, and they had a similar wealth building project for Indigenous communities that they launched a few years ago that was incredibly successful. So big bravo to our friends at
Bravura.
Bush.
Absolutely. Yes, we will put the link to the application in the show notes. Y'all get your little applications in. I know I'm gonna get mine in, and we'll see what happens. Absolutely.
I guess
I
I
believe
moved too early.
There is currently a similar, you know, kind of grant cycle going on for Indigenous folks in the same area.
Yes.
Right now as well. So, you know, share with your Black and Indigenous friends.
Yes, share it around.
Yes.
And thank you, Bush Foundation, because that's dope. That's dope. Paige.
Yes. Well, okay, first of all, one of my pure Black joys to folks who are in the, you know, Yoruba diaspora, either in Nigeria or in the Caribbean or in North America or South America. Happy New Year. It is the Yoruba New Year. So yeah, and you know, that comes with, you know, for even for folks who aren't familiar with the tradition, at the beginning of the year there's also like divination that's performed and like kind of distributed to the rest of the world on what to expect for the new year and what things to look out for, and you know, celebration of, you know, how far we've come and, you know, reuniting folks across the diaspora. So yeah, happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Yes. I also feel like it felt like a little more appropriate to have a new year around this time, just because it's like summer and everything's growing again. And I don't know, it just feels right in my body. It makes sense.
I've had this perspective for such a long time because obviously the calendar is completely man-made, which is why everybody doesn't have the same one. Why the year doesn't start in the spring, has always escaped me, right? Because it feels like
Right?
that's
It's
like,
peculiar.
it is peculiar. We should like write a complaint to somebody.
I mean, the astrological calendar begins in the spring.
Exactly.
Exactly.
The real one.
Exactly.
Exactly.
What's beginning? What's growing in the dead of winter? Nothing.
Nothing.
So
Patience
yeah,
wearing thin is about the only thing.
exactly. And then my other, okay, so yes, Ekuodun. That's how we say Happy New Year in Yoruba. Ekuodun. Oh, my other pure black joy was that this past week I got to see the legend, the icon. Yes, we were together again. Janet
Ooh,
Jackson.
yay.
Woo! And Ludacris too. Ludacris opened up the show, and yeah, it was just, my inner child was very, very happy. My inner child could not believe that we were seeing Janet Jackson. Like, what? Excuse me? I was singing along most of the time. Mind you, we were in like maybe like the dead last row. And I still had a fabulous time. It just so fun. Like, it just felt like such a celebration of, her musical legacy. Just so many, like, I feel like little like nuggets and like Easter eggs to Janet's choreography and her music videos. And, of course, she got to have a moment where somebody's in a chair or strapped to a something and she dancing on them. Everybody knows that. It was incredible. And she did an encore in the most beautiful way I have ever seen. It brought tears to my eyes. First of all, I like an artist who makes you work for an encore a little bit, make you work for it. You got to prove that you really want them to come back out. And so, everything is dark. And then you start to just hear like her singing the beginning of Together Again. And they have all these video monitors, and up on the video monitors, they come back on, and you see like her makeup getting retouched up in the back. And like there's these live cameras that are on her, and she just starts singing, there are times when I look over and be like very slow, and the cameras are following her back to the stage, and you see her backstage dancer, like her backup dancers looking at her and smiling, and they're excited too. And she finally makes her way back on the stage, and by that time the beat is going everywhere I go. Y'all, it was a moment. I shed a tear. It was so great. Shout out to her and this tour, and Luda too. Ludacris looks good, y'all. Yes, and he was rapping all the words, moving
that
around
Fast
the
and the
stage.
Furious money.
Listen, if that Fast and the Furious money, he must be one of these rappers who went like plant-based or something like that and been taking good care of himself after all the wilding he did, because he sounded good, rapped all the words, did not sound out of breath, was moving around the stage, was getting the crowd nice and hyped up for Janet. So all around good show. Yeah.
But let me get this straight. You are seeing Janet and Beyonce in the same summer. Where have you gone right that I went wrong? Like, that's all I want to know.
Yeah. And then I'm seeing Anita Baker in the fall.
What?
Ooh, where?
Period. So I'm actually going all the way to Memphis to see Auntie Anita, because I was going to go wherever I needed to go. That's all. Yep.
Huh. Well,
Mhm.
all right.
I heard that.
I'm jealous of you. All right. Well, damn. No other way to say it.
I feel like it's like low-key my year of Black music, or just like celebrating the Black music I love. That's really what I'm trying to do, honestly.
You deserve it. You absolutely
do, 100%.
Oh,
and speaking of Black music, so I know that we were talking earlier before we started recording just about how this week has been trash.
Hot garbage.
Hot garbage for us So in our personal lives, and of course, the hot garbage spewing from Canada. But there has been one thing for the past couple of weeks that has truly been warming my heart, has just put a smile on my face every time I've gotten to see it. And I know earlier on this podcast, I said I was not here for Renaissance tour spoilers because I want to experience the whole thing. But these videos of Blue Ivy dancing with her mama, it is so adorable and fierce at the same time. She is just everything. And then watching Beyonce watch her while she dances, and then watching her get better. Like she was hitting all the moves in Paris, but by the time they got to Barcelona, she was like putting her back into it and going for it and like keeping up with Beyonce. And like it's just it just puts a smile on your face. Because she's just so talented, and I just can't wait to see what she does in the future. And it's like, thank goodness you're going into your parents' line of work and keeping the family business going, because we need it. And so just shout out to Blue Ivy and Beyonce and all the Knowleses and all the Carters and and Solange. Always to Solange.
Oh yeah. Oh, as soon as Blue links up with Solange, then it's really over.
It's over.
It's over for you girls.
Over. Talk
Blue
about art
so
being
cool.
the main entree. Good Lord.
So love how Blue is just strikes me as being so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just so cool. Something about her demeanor reminds me like Aaliyah. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I
just like chill
so
with
joy.
that confidence, which I mean, of course you're gonna be confident if Beyonce is your mom.
Hello.
And co-signing you, but like also like those moments where she's like, you can tell she's a little kid still. There's this one point where like she's about to start hitting the choreography, like the beat's about to come in, and she sees somebody in the audience and she's completely gagged. I don't know if it was Oprah or who, Meghan Markle, I don't know. But she, like, you see her go like, oh my God. And then the music starts and she just gets back into it.
It's so cute.
It's just so cute. It's so cute. It just made my whole week, all of those videos. So I don't know if Blue Ivy's going to be here with us in Minneapolis, but we'll see. Fingers crossed. I hope so.
Doesn't she like Prince? She want to perform.
She wants to go to Paisley Park.
She want to perform for us.
Yes. Well, let us pray. But on that note, I think we are going to call it an episode for this week. Join us next week. We're going to have this fabulous Juneteenth panel. And like I said at the beginning of the show, we are going to have a big announcement about the show, which I hope people have good feelings about. But we'll see. We'll see. But until then, subscribe on your favorite podcatcher of choice. Tell all your friends about us. Please leave us a review. That would be really, really nice. 5 stars, maybe with some words. That would be even better. And until then, any words of wisdom, y'all?
If you're going outside and you live on the eastern half of the United States, put on a mask.
Yes. Which hopefully you have left over.
Right. And if you don't, take this as an opportunity to be reminded of what state the world is in.
Exactly. And given the number of people that I know in my circle who have COVID at the moment, you might just want to stock up on those anyway, because it seems like that's becoming a thing again. Like it never wasn't, but you know what I mean.
a high quality mask, which are more readily available now. We've all established we've all have established that your little cloth joints that we all stocked up on are maybe not the best choice. But we have advanced things since then for folks who have remained COVID conscious. So go put on that, go get that order.
You can
KN95s
find something that is effective and cute and goes with your outfit. They come in all sorts of colors. So okay. Word to the wise. All right, everybody. Well, we will see you in 2 weeks. And thank you so much for being a part of the score. Thank you to Damian Norfleet for being with us. And thank you, Lord, for another day on this planet, I guess. All right, that's it. Bye. Bye. Bye.